Hi, it's Dr. Keith McAfee. Welcome to Medicine and Faith, where I take a subject of medicine, teach about it, and hopefully relate that to our faith in a way that's going to help you learn. Today, we're going to talk about bursitis. Bursa, which is what we're involved with here. Itis means inflammation. Now, what is a bursa? We have a bursa all over the place, shoulders, knees, hips. Wherever there's movement and potential friction, our body has, not everywhere, but most places they have what's called a bursa. A bursa is a flat sac with lubricating fluid on the inside, sort of a thick, syrupy kind of stuff, that prevents friction, okay? Let me give you an analogy. If you get a little kid's party balloon, you're gonna have a birthday party, you get those balloons that you blow up and tack to the wall. Don't blow it up, just keep it small and put some oil inside of it. Pour the oil out, flatten it, so it's got a thin coating of oil on the inside, and tie it off. So now it's a closed balloon tied off with a little layer of oil on the inside, not much. Now, if I get my two hands and I rub them together just as they are, very quickly they get hot, red, irritated, inflamed. I can feel the friction. If I put that party balloon with the oil inside of it, if I put those between my hands, I could do this all day long, no friction whatsoever, because that sac prevents inflammation, prevents the friction. That's a bursa. That's all a bursa is. Inflammation of the bursa is not an illness or a disease or a sickness. It just means it's inflamed. If I hit a cabinet with my forehead, boom, I get a big goose egg, right? It's hot, it's swollen, it's red, it's painful. That's inflammation of my forehead, a big goose egg. Well, if that bursa gets inflamed, bang, there's a big one, for instance, on the side of the hip called the trochanteric bursa. If you bang that against a cabinet, the countertop in the kitchen, or you lay on it wrong, or who knows what, or you walk too much and so it becomes inflamed, then that bursa becomes irritated. And now, if you think about it, if you have that bursa and it's supposed to be lubricating, but now it's got a goose egg in it, so to speak. So the inner lining, instead of being smooth and glistening with this gooey sort of solution, it becomes bumpy and inflamed and sore. Now the bursa itself is painful. And so this bone and this ligament that are supposed to be gliding over the bursa, and the bursa is protecting inflammation, now the bursa itself is inflamed. And it can be very, very painful. Ask anybody who's got bursitis of the shoulder or of the trochanteric area. It's very uncomfortable, and it limits what you can do. If you have it on the shoulder, you can't use your shoulder very well because it hurts so badly. Bursitis is miserable. It's, again, not a disease. It's just an area of inflammation that causes you not to function very well. How do you get rid of that? Well, stop doing whatever's causing the problem, ice it, and sometimes that's not possible, but ice it, sometimes cortisone shots, sometimes exercises, believe it or not, can help it, but the right kind of exercises, until all the inflammation goes away. If you have that goose egg after hitting your kitchen cabinet, that'll eventually go away. It takes a while and you have to kind of take care of it, protect it, and not bump it against things anymore, but it will eventually go away because, again, it's just inflammation. Now, in bursitis, it's very hard to get rid of bursitis if you don't actually protect the bursa for further irritation and inflammation. You have to kind of back off and give it a break. Now, in our spiritual lives, oftentimes, we all have spiritual gifts. God has given us spiritual gifts that are supposed to be used in concert with, in cooperation with other people in the Christian church. We all work together. And each of us, our own individual spiritual gifts, are supposed to help facilitate other people's spiritual gifts. A bursa helps facilitate the movement of muscles that help us to, let's say, walk or reach up and do things with our shoulder. That's what its role is. It's a supportive role. It's a very important role. How often, if we're the muscle trying to do our work, and there's a bursa which is inflamed, if we have spiritual gifts, if we're trying to do our spiritual function and the person who's supporting us is really having problems, do we just keep doing that function? And I don't care what it costs them. I don't care how much it hurts them. This is my ministry, or this is my function, and this is what God calls me to do. So if other people have to suffer for me to get my job done, so be it. Their spiritual gift is to suffer for my cause. No, there are a lot of people who support us in ways we don't even understand, in some ways which we do understand. We need to look for the ways in which our legitimate and good Christian functioning in ministry might be having problems causing inflammation in other people's lives around us, where we're over demanding of them, or they need a break and somebody else needs to take their place. We don't want our functions in our Christian lives to be hard on people around us. If it is hard on people, sometimes that's unavoidable. We've got a lot of work to do, we've got to pitch in, but we need to look for ways in which our ministries, our God-given and good ministries, may be causing hardship on other people around us, and take care of those people and make sure they're not being used and abused, so to speak, by our legitimate ministries. Because that's not what God wants either. God is more I would say, more concerned with how our lives affect other people than he is about whether our ministry is being done or not. He takes more care and love for his children than he does for our functions. So let's make sure in our lives that the muscles and tendons and bones, that the function that they do don't beat up on the bursa so much that the bursa becomes inflamed. Make sure our spiritual gifts and our ministries don't beat up on the people who are helping to make that happen, because God really does care about that, and we want to give those people a break. Let's protect against creating bursitis in the people's lives around us. This is Dr. Keith McAfee. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see other such video logs, please go to my website, KeithMcAfee.com. There you'll also learn about my book, Breathe, A Physician's Stories and Reflections on Prayer, published by Westbow Press, a series of 45 true stories from a medical career, and how that relates to our prayer life. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to talking to you again soon.